It's time to phone. It's time to phone. I say it's alright. It's a problem. Why do I have to dial daily? It's rejection. When will they ever call me back? It's time to phone. It's time to phone. I say it's alright. I don't want to hear one more voice that tells me no. Please don't answer. I hope you don't pick up this call. It's time to phone. It's time to phone. I say it's alright. Phone, it's time to phone. Phone, 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 it's time to phone. Phone, 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 it's time to phone. Phone, 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 it's time to phone. It is sacred, that time I have to schedule daily. They say it pays me to ask that magical third time. It's time to phone. It's time to phone. I say it's alright. It's alright. Thank you. The phone. The phone. I started dialing on a rotary phone. No joke. My grandparents had a rotary phone at home, and you could still dial with those. Then I got a bag phone. A bag phone. Anybody remember the bag phone? First bill roaming charges $1,100 with the bag phone. Brand new rep, I'm like, what is this? Then I had a flip phone. Now I've got a PDA, Apple phone. But phoning, it's such a challenge. And whether you call it texting or emailing or just good old plain, as we teach, phoning, it is a challenge. It is a challenge. It reminds me of these two things as an athlete. It reminds me of ab work and wind sprints, things I love doing on my own. No, I didn't. But I did a lot of wind sprints, and now that I'm a yogi, I do a lot of ab work. But what do we do with wind sprints and ab work when they're not scheduled, when we don't have a trainer asking us to do them? We leave them out. We leave it out. It is sacred. Like the song says, it is sacred. And certainly I don't mean worthy of religious worship or holy, but I do mean this. That it's valued. It's of great importance that we phone. I love Houston's. I think Houston's got one of the best restaurants, best menus in Atlanta. And you know what I love at Houston's? The fruit plate. They have an outstanding fruit plate at Houston's. Actually, you know, they don't have a fruit plate at Houston's. They have chicken tenders with fries, cheeseburgers, they have cheese soup, they have barbecue. It all is good at Houston's. And if there was a fruit plate at Houston's, I probably still wouldn't get it. I wouldn't, because I want the good stuff. Rebecca Bass gave I thought, a great talk at the annual meeting. And she challenged us to give our very best. What if we gave our very best? In this room, honestly, be honest with yourself. How many of you keep the sacred phoning hour sacred? Not very many. And I would just say to all of you, if you're thinking about leaving here with a nugget, leaving here with a habit, a one thing to change, I would tell you to keep the sacred phoning hour sacred. Make it the way you treat an appointment with an A-plus client. You don't move that. It's in your office, you're ready, you're prepared. And yet we don't keep this hour sacred. I think about if this room were to keep the phoning hour sacred, what would happen in the next year? What would happen in the next year if you just kept this sacred? It's not, though, the real problem. It isn't the real problem. You all would keep the sacred phoning hour sacred if you could figure out the real problem. One of my mentors gave me this quote, that a well-defined problem is 90% of the solution. And so oftentimes we don't know what the real problem is. Philip told us what the real problem is. Here's the real problem. It's fear. It's ego. It's us. And in our business, where does it get manifested the most? In our client-facing, client-building business, the problem is manifested most in a lack of prospecting. That's where it gets played out. You don't have a phoning problem. None of you do. I give a number of you leads, warm COI leads attached to my name. How long does it take you to make that sacred phone call? About 8 seconds. You don't have a phoning problem. We all have a prospecting problem. And I want to tell you that phoning is a walk in the park. It's just a walk in the park. And this is our most recent training class. It feels good to have you sitting right up front. Sheriff Ben Pruitt and this group of 7 men. You're making me feel happy and smiling up here. And they know the walk in the park. But not all of you know the story of the walk in the park. One of my best friends, one of my college teammate athletes, Stephen Mueller, who Philip and I grew up with at the University of Illinois. He left the athletic career, left the University of Illinois and became a Navy SEAL. He could barely swim before he became a Navy SEAL. So that shows you the kind of determination this guy had. And whenever I mention he's a Navy SEAL, you know what Navy SEALs do? They check if he really was a Navy SEAL. And then they come back to me and say, well, he really was a Navy SEAL. I didn't know. A lot of people lie about being a Navy SEAL. But anyway, so quick aside. So he comes to our house, and he has 3 daughters, and I have 4 daughters, and we're hanging out. And he said, let's go for a run. And we go for a run. And I said, Stephen, I need to go for a jog, but we'll jog. And I do. I live by this wonderful park named Chastain Park. I think in Atlanta it might even be like Central Park. It's a great, great park. You've got paths, and people walk their dogs, and people wave, and it's got curves. And like in Atlanta, you know, it's got hills. And here's the park path. And as Steve and I go on this run around the park, do you know how many people said good morning to us. It was an early morning run, and we passed a lot of people. No one. And Stephen, about halfway through the run, says, Johnny, can you believe it? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, can you believe it? I said, what do you? He said, no one says good morning. He said, you know, in the military, on any of our bases, you don't walk by someone without saying good morning or good afternoon or good evening. He said, let's try something. I'm going to start yelling enthusiastically good morning to everybody we pass. I said, cool, I'll join you. So we start doing that. What do you think happened? People started saying good morning. Now, I didn't want to just illustrate this story with a narrative. I actually wanted to show you some actual video around the park. And I want to give you some real techniques proving this point. So here's video 1.
So we're starting our first video test, and you can notice I'm going to be walking by these people and not saying hello. So nothing there. Just a quick little weird stare. The runner behind me, this guy in the red, ran away from me. He's running down the stairs away. So we're going to keep walking. It's a walk in the park. And we're seeing a runner right ahead. I'm not going to say hello to him. We'll see what he says to me. Here he comes briefly. Nothing from him. This person's sitting here, working diligently. Lots of work. Yep. Didn't even acknowledge that we were talking about his work. So, here comes another runner. If you call that a runner, I don't know. Light jogger. So once again, headphones on, glasses, nothing. Here's a small child. See if he says anything to me. He might look at me. Let's see. Okay. Nothing.
All right. And so many of you in your prospecting are walking around the park, not saying good morning, not saying good afternoon. You're not saying hello. Here's what some other ones of you are doing.
Here we are going the other way, and if we run, it even gets worse. Running by people. This is a fast running pace. Could be threatening my Achilles. Nope, nothing said there at all. See that? But a quick little stare. Okay, here's a kid. I'll have a little small child. We'll say hello. Nope, she's getting her out of the way of me running. Just goes to show you also cannot run around the park. See, none of these people are reacting. This is a pretty good run. Nothing's happening whatsoever. Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
All right. So others of you, you may be not just not asking, you're running so hard. You're all over the place and not preparing to prospect, not preparing to have interaction. You can't run around the park. I didn't say run around the park. I said it's a walk in the park. It's an intentional walk in the park. It's a deliberate walk in the park. Here we start asking.
Okay, we have some people here, and then we're going to start the process that we're doing. Good evening. Small smile, less there. Let's see here how this goes. Good evening. Hey. A little bit of action. The camera could be affecting things, clearly. There's a dog walker. But I did get a smile there. We did get some acknowledgement, which is good. See the dog walker here. When we say there's a... Good evening.
Hey, how are you?
Very fine. Okay, that was a little embarrassing, but you don't ever want to be walked upon like in that position. time I'm going to try the camera a little more clandestine view. I'm not sure how that works, but now let's see. It works good. Good evening. Couldn't hear me. She had headphones on. Headphones can be a problem. Remember, not everyone says good evening. Now this is a person running, hurting a little bit, going out on a stride. Good evening.
Hey, what's up?
So I got a hey, what's up there? That was good. Good. All right. So everyone we've passed has given some acknowledgement. We got a hey, what's up there? So we're making the point clearly.
So you got to ask. You got to say good morning. You got to say good evening. But here's the real secret.
But the ultimate way to go to the park, the best possible way to greet people, meet people, is to go to the park with a bulldog. Now, for most of their days, bulldogs don't do much. They do not do a lot. This is Mackie the bulldog. You can hear him sleeping peacefully. This is his main stance during the day. Mackie. Mac. You see how responsive he is to his commander's voice. There he's slowly rising. Hi, Mac. Mac, do you want to go for a walk around the park? Huh? Mackie? Mac. Mac, do you want to walk around the park? Doesn't sound like it, but as you will see, he will do magnificent things around the park. So now you can see, Mackie, Mac, look up here. We are walking around the park with Mac. It makes all the difference. So for example, I'm gonna just walk around here. Mac, come on, come on. Come on, Mac.
Oh, look at the cute dog.
Oh, see, hey.
Oh, Mac.
This is Mac.
Hi, Mac. You want to see the puppy girl?
He loves people. He makes people laugh too. Mac, let's stop that. Well, Mac, that's a little much. Don't get the kids there, Mac.
So you're showing affection.
Yeah, that's right. He's showing affection there.
You
Do you like doggies? You want to see the doggies?
Want to see?
Yeah. Mac, what do you think?
I'm getting
Going to the bathrooms. He's all boy.
Oh my God. Handsome.
So we're making the point here of walking by just even strangers that we go, morning.
Oh, good morning. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Hi.
This is Mac.
Oh, hi, Mac.
This is Mac.
Hi.
What's your name?
My name's Roberta.
Hey, Roberta. How are you?
I'm doing well.
I'm John.
John, nice to meet you.
Mac can't last long, but he does, a little while around the park. He's about at his last legs.
Oh, no. How
yeah.
old is he?
Mac is 7.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So he's getting old. That's old for a bulldog, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know
He's
that.
gonna start to kick up dirt. Mac, don't kick up dirt here. That's not.
Oh,
That's
okay.
not. Stay over
All
here.
right.
And they slobber.
Oh, yes, I know.
So
I know.
you walk
I know.
around the park regularly?
I do.
Yeah.
I do about 5 days a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
I
a great
do.
park, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So tell me, do you, I'm looking for a financial planner.
Are you really?
Yes.
Well, you're kidding. Well, that's what we do. Fantastic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We'll have to exchange information.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
All
good to
right.
see you, Roberta.
Good, nice meeting
Nice
you.
to meet
All
you.
right,
Be
thanks.
well. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
It's a walk in the park. And it really is. And it's so... So these new trainees know I've been talking about this, and I do, so it's true. You walk around Chastain Park, and you might see 100 people. And then we're in the South. This isn't New York. People don't say good morning and good afternoon and hello unless you do. But if you really want to take your prospecting, which is everything in the business, to the next level, bring a bulldog. And you all know what I mean by that. What do I mean by that? Yeah, exactly, Jerry Jones. Be loose, have fun. Don't be uptight about 6'3" prospecting and I can't ask. And have fun with people. Be fun. Again, you saw what happens when people get distracted by a bulldog. Good things happen. So don't go alone to the park. Bring a bulldog to the park. The real truth is, though, that phoning isn't the real problem. And even prospecting, and it's the lifeblood of our business, isn't the real problem. This is the problem. This is what, more than anything, that this room needs to get their arms around. The power of purpose. I was very fortunate, and it's so ironic how the circle of life works, that Bill Goodwin, when I was an agent, that's what we were called back then, a special agent, introduced me to this guy, Dick Leiter. And what a fascinating guy. And he's an organizational consultant that has dedicated his life to helping people find their purpose. And he's written a number of books, and mainly where he's learned about purpose is taking retreats, leading expeditions to Africa, where he spends time with a tribe in Africa called the Maasai tribe. And his first trip to Africa, and it's interesting, Bill and Valerie have been to Africa with Dick Leiter on one of these trips. They almost didn't make it back. I won't go into the details of why that, but they did, and they had an amazing trip to Africa. One evening, as Dick is walking with one of the tribesmen that he's become friend with from the Maasai tribe, of course, what does he have as an American going to Africa? A giant pack on his back with tons of stuff in it. And they're walking, and again, he's starting to even slog a little bit. And finally, the Maasai tribesman says to him, this bag, he said, what's in there that makes you so happy? What's in that bag that makes you happy? Because the Maasai tribesman was walking with a stick, and that's it. And Dick Leiter got to the next stop, and he started really examining his backpack, his pack. And he said, well, what if I take out everything out of the pack except just the essentials of what I really, really need? And the bag became about, 80% of the bag went away. So many of us are carrying a pack that we don't need to as it relates to our purpose. Some of you in the room are just looking for your purpose for the first time. And some of you are trying to find it with no pain. I can promise you that'll never happen. I loved Philip's piece about emotional intelligence and what the secret to success is, and this concept of failing forward. You won't find it. You won't find it in success after success after success. And then some of you in the room are looking to rediscover your purpose. You forgot. You lost it. You had it, but you lost it. Because when we have this, when we have purpose in our lives, it changes everything. It changes the phone. It changes the prospect. It's one of those things we like to call a game changer. And I'll give you a little formula to think about as it relates to purpose and what happens when you find it. G plus P plus V equals C. Your gifts. And some of you still need to discover them. You need to discover them. Best way to discover them Ask people that know you really well how to describe you. Ask people that you know really well to tell you what they find unique and different about you. It's a great exercise. What are your gifts? What are your strengths? Your passions. Your passion. What's the best way to find that? The time of day when you're working where you lose yourself. Lose yourself in your work. You experience real joy in your work. Your passions. And then lastly, your values. What are your values? And guess what you find when you add these up, when you get real clarity around your gifts and strengths, your passions, the things that give you energy, and your values, you find something greater. That word's not career, is it? Find your calling. You get to find your calling. And purpose in life is one of those things that matters so much. It's so fundamental. Many of you know I like alliteration. Here are 3 of the greatest fundamentals to purpose. And guess what? One of them you're stewarding all the time. What do you think this stands for? Money. It stands for money. Medicine. Our health. And then lastly, meaning. These are the fundamentals: money, medicine, and meaning. And you get to be at the foundational level with all of your clients in one of the most important M's of life: stewarding money. Being there with money at the most difficult times. And guess what? When you get excellent at that, when you become the excellent advisor, you get to help people with these 2 also. This happens all the time. And the greatest advisors in this room know that. It happens all the time. I want to close with talking about 2 people in my life that gave me purpose, and I want to dedicate a poem to one of them. So, as I told you, and it was, again, ironic that Dewan talked about his grandpa, but I got to grow up two blocks away from my grandparents. And they were such a big influence in my life. And that picture, you can see not only your Grammy and Grandpa in that picture, there's Laura Brent, who I tricked into coming to picture day with my family. So, and that's when I graduated from the University of Illinois, and that is the day my Grammy and Grandpa celebrated 50 years of marriage. 50 years of marriage. And they probably exemplified to me greater than anyone else what purpose was. My grandpa had his purpose as a coach, track coach, 40-year track coach. But my Grammy had her purpose as a mom and as a Grammy. She introduced herself my whole life growing up to everyone as Grammy. That's how she introduced herself. And Grammy loved poetry. She loved poetry. And she loved James Whitcomb Riley, and she would memorize poetry all the time. And in closing this talk, I want to dedicate a poem to her, because I think it's a poem that, if we get our arms around purpose, we can really experience a lot of things this great poem talks about. So it's called If by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not grow tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools. Or watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build them up again with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve you long after they are gone and hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, no lose the common touch. If neither for no loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that is in it. And what is more, you'll be a man, my son. So bring a phone to the park with a purpose. God bless you all.